So today I'm going to be talking about the best and worst books I read in 2022 and taking a look at my storygraph statistics. So yeah, I'm gonna start with the worst books I read this year and then get into the good stuff. I read 63, I think, books until today. Which is December 26th. Maybe I will have read one or two more until the end of the year, but I don't think they're gonna affect this ranking that much, to be honest. So yeah, let's get into it. So the worst book I read this year was YN by Esther Yi. It's about a girl who is not interested in K-pop at all. A friend takes her to a K-pop concert and she falls head over heels for one of the singers in the group, and she becomes obsessed with him and goes to Korea to meet him. I've seen a lot of people praise this book. It's not even out yet, okay? I read this via NetGalley, but the language that she used was so pretentious and annoying. I really wanted to give up on it, but I also wanted to read it to hate on it. I'm so sorry. I like K-pop, and I know that there are people that are stalkers and stuff for these idols. I thought it would be written in a more interesting way. It was just really annoying. I hated everyone in the book, like literally everyone. I didn't learn anything, I didn't get a different perspective. Yeah, I just didn't like it at all. Next is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. I know a lot of people love this book. For me, again, everyone was insufferable. If you give me good characters, even bad people that I can root for, I will like the book. Like, I liked The Time Traveler's Wife, because even though the premise was very lacking in some points, especially with the age difference, I still liked the characters as people. Like, I understood them and I could root for them in some points. This one, no, I hate everyone. Everyone was very annoying, and yeah, they were just not fun to be around, basically. They were all awful people. I don't know, I'm guessing that's the point with her books, but maybe that just means Sally Rooney isn't for me after all. So yeah. And the other one I wanted to mention is Fahrenheit 451. It's a modern classic about a dystopian future where no one can read books and everyone is watching TV all day on like huge wall screens. And there's one red pill guy that goes and saves the day. He doesn't, but yeah, he was also very annoying. I like the premise, that's why I wanted to read it, because it's a very interesting premise. But the execution lacks severely. I did like some of the characters in this book, that's why it's higher than the rest. But the main guy is just so... yeah. I just couldn't enjoy it, again. I don't know... I know a lot of people also agree with me on this take about this book. So I don't know if it's just me and not reading books that are close to my taste, or if it's actually not that great of a book. So yeah, this is just my personal opinion. If you love these books, please let me know why. I will be able to understand all of your opinions apart from YN. YN, I don't understand how someone could like it. It's so fucking annoying. The language alone, the prose, everything is so annoying. Okay? I just, no. Anyway, let's get into something happier. Before we get into the actual top 10, I'm gonna talk about 3 special mentions. First of all, Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. So I adore this simple story about people being together in a cafe. I loved it, and I'm planning on reading the next 2 books in January, like the first week of January. This book is actually the book club pick of the month for the Gumption Book Club. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what everyone else thinks of it. And if you want something cozy and sweet and a little bit heart-wrenching, not gonna lie, I really recommend this one. And next, I've got Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I read Gideon and what's her name? Harrow the Ninth this year as well. But Nona is where Tamsin got me, because not gonna lie, Gideon and Harrow, I was very confused in the first third of the book. Every time, there were long chunks of the book that I just was slogging through and having questions in my head the whole time, and that's not fun for me. But Nona gripped me from the very beginning. I love Nona as a character as well, such a sweetie. And the other 2 books also had really long battle scenes that I'm not a fan of. This one, not so much. So yeah, another point. And it made me really want to finish the series with Alecto. Otherwise, I don't know, if Nona didn't hit for me, I don't know if I would have picked up Alecto, even though I did like Gideon and Harrow, just a little bit less. So yeah, it really made me love the series even more. Yeah. Okay, so the last special mention is Miss Benson's Beetle by Rachel Joyce. So this is now not the latest Rachel Joyce book, but it's her latest standalone book. It's basically about this woman, Miss Benson, who is going to New Caledonia to find a rare species of beetle. It's basically a cryptoid thing because no one has seen it, but she knows it exists. And she goes with a helper, I guess, called Enid, to go and find it together. And they find friendship and loss along the way. It's really heartbreaking at some points, heartwarming in others. There's a lot of adventure. It's just really fucking good. And Rachel Joyce herself said that she didn't really write female friendships that much before this. That's true. And I'm so happy that she started with this one, because I love the way that she wrote this friendship. Yeah. So number 10 is a non-fiction book. It's Why Fish Don't Exist, and it's a book that got me into reading more non-fiction, because it is kind of structured like a fiction story. It's a story about a woman getting into her own. It's kind of a biography of a biologist as well, and it's also about why fish don't actually exist. Yeah, they don't really. It's really interesting. It could start off a little bit like a self-help book, and you might think, oh, I've heard this stuff before, I don't really care. But trust me, get into those first chapters, and then the more you get into it, the more you're gonna fall in love with the author's voice. Lulu Miller, I didn't mention that, sorry. She's amazing. I really want to buy this book physically. I want to buy every single book from my top 20 physically. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But yeah, definitely recommend, 100%. Next, number 9, another Rachel Joyce book, The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. So this is the first in a series of companion books that she's written. The Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, The Love Song of Miss Queenie Hennessy, and now the latest one, which is Maureen Fry and the Angel of the North. So Maureen Fry is her latest book, and I've pre-ordered it on paperback. It's going to get here in June, so I haven't read it yet, unfortunately, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Harold Fry, well, Queenie Hennessy, this book is my favourite book ever. So I read it before this one, which this one came afterwards, but yeah, I loved it. And Harold Fry, which is where it all began, is Rachel Joyce's most well-known book, probably. I think, yeah, it is. And there's a movie coming out next year, which I'm so excited for. I love the actors. Anyway, I'm just going to tell you what it's about, okay? So this guy, Harold Fry, wow, that rhymed. He's been living a pretty quiet life, very boring and same old, until he gets a letter from Queenie Hennessy, which is a person that he knew. He worked with her a long time ago. And she's telling him that she's at her last, and she really wants to talk to him one more time and tell him everything that she couldn't say before. So he decides that he's going to walk to her. He lives in the very, very south of England, and she's at the very top of Scotland. And he starts this pilgrimage towards Queenie, and along the way a lot of people join him. He meets a ton of new interesting people and changes lives basically along the way. And yeah, it's heartbreaking, it's heartwarming again. I think I've said this about every single book I love. But yeah, I like how emotional it made me. And I really can't wait for the adaptation. I hope they do a good job, because it's a really good book and it's a story that deserves to be heard. Number 8 is Middlesex by Jeffrey Evianides. And I've given this to my mum, so she's still in the middle of the book. It's very hard to get through if you're not into a lot of descriptions, but thankfully I am. And I thought it really added to the book in this case. So yeah, it's a story about 3 generations of the same family, starting off with the Asia Minor catastrophe and ending up, I think, in modern day, I think, if I remember correctly. It's Jeffrey's maybe most well-known book, or second most well-known after the Virgin Suicides. There's a lot of hard topics here, including incest, so be aware. And it's also about this the main character's journey through being intersex. That's why it's Middlesex. So yeah, I really loved it. I learned about a lot of things that I didn't know about. I could relate to the family at some points because they are of Greek family, at least the roots of them are. Some of their experiences ring true, 100%. And yeah, this book specifically has a lot of hard parts though. Like, I think you should really check out all the contents warnings beforehand, because there's a lot of stuff in here. It's a chunky boy. Next is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is the only classic I've added to my top 10 this year. And it's my favorite, maybe one of my favorite classics, top 5, 100%. It's about a family of a priest. He has traveled from the south of England to the north of England. Oh, that's a theme, I guess. And it's set in Victorian England and showing the differences between the north and the south of England, and how this family gets to adapt to the situation with all the factories that are then coming up in the north, and how bad the situation is for the poor in the area. I love all the characters here. I think that she did a great job of fleshing everyone out and making me empathize with them. I still have some issues with how the poor are treated, the class differences, because she tries to empathize with them, but I don't think she quite gets it. It's the time period, we can't really judge that much from where we are right now in 2022, but yeah, it could have been handled better in this time period, I think, than then. Anyway, I still think it's a great book, and I love the mini-series as well. I really recommend it. Next is Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World. An amazing continuation to the first book. I was just swept away by their romance once again. I liked how they also furthered their characters outside of the romance. I think the first part of the book is more about them two together, and then the next part is furthering Ari's life, mostly, to be honest. But still, it's just a huge comfort read. I don't know, I love them. I love these people so much. They are the cutest people ever. The cutest people ever. And yeah, if you want a really heartwarming romance set in the 90s, 80s, I think, yeah, you should pick this one up. It's adorable. It's adorable. Yeah, I just can't praise it enough. I love them. I love them so much. Next is another book I don't have, but I want to buy. It's Cloud Cuckoo Land. It's basically an adaptation, and not just an adaptation, it's taking the premise of Aristophanes' birds and revolving it around 5 distinct different stories. Well, they're not just, some of them, well, all of them blend together, but it's about 5 different people. You get what I mean. All of the pieces fit together perfectly. I think it's a really inspiring story. It's an environmental story. It's an anti-war story. There's a love story in there as well. There's science fiction. It's awesome. And all of the different parts are so interesting to see how they weave together and the ideas that the author had for the future. I also have one of his other books, All the Light We Cannot See. Yeah, and I really want to read that too in the near future, since I love this one so much. Next, we go on to Beartown. So Frederick Buckman and Rachel Joyce kind of hold the same place in my heart. They are both amazing literary writers, literary fiction writers. And this book specifically is about a hockey town in Sweden where everyone is obsessed over this high school hockey team that they think is going to go really well and maybe make their town bigger again because everyone's leaving now. But one night, a rape happens and the people are never the same again. I adored this book. I love how Bachman gives us so many characters to work with, and yet I think everyone feels very real at the same time, which is very difficult to do, right? And I just needed to read the second one right away, which we'll get back to in a minute. In the meantime, number 3 on my list is Crooked Kingdom. I love these people so much. Oh, I love them so much. I want to read this again this year, as well as Six of Crows, since we're getting season 2 of Shadow and Bone. Let's get excited, let's get hyped. Sorry about that, let's let them ride along. So as I was saying, Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I loved Six of Crows, and it's also pretty high up on my list. I think it's, let me check. It's number 23, okay? That's not a bad thing. There were just some books really close to it that I thought were a bit better, okay? Crooked Kingdom though, number 3, I loved it a lot. I thought that the characters from the first book were really well developed in this one, and the plot that they made together was even tighter than the last one. I liked the scale of Crooked Kingdom, I liked how much we saw of Ketterdam. It was all so good, and the ending, while sad, it was also very satisfying in a way. So yeah, all good things. I love this book, and I can't wait to see The Crows again soon. I'm definitely going to make a video about the Shadow and Bone season 2, and I'm thinking of rereading Rune and Rising and Siege and Storm, even though I did not like those books, just to remember what happened, and so I can have like a perspective on whether the adaptation changed and how it changed. So yeah, if that happens, I'm definitely reading these bad boys as well. So number 2 is Us Against You by Frederick Buckman. So yeah, I like this one more. Not that much more, as you can tell, but still. This was a little bit less... The subject matter was a little bit less dark, obviously, because the first one had a whole R-word situation and scene. But this is kind of like what books usually don't give us. So we saw the aftermath in Beartown, and now we see the aftermath of the aftermath. So how is the town going to rebuild itself? The team was broken apart. How are they going to recoup? How is everyone affected by the R word going to continue? It was so interesting. I love all the characters once again, even the new ones introduced, and I have the winners left to read, and I'm so anxious. I really want it to be good. That's just made me put it off more, because originally I was ready to start it straight away, and it came a little bit later than what I had read Us Against You, and by that time I was like, oh my god, I don't want it to end. I don't know what they're gonna do. I think someone's gonna die and I don't want them to die. That whole situation. So yeah, I'm hoping to start the winners next year, like in January. We'll see. I'm kind of nervous. I'm really nervous. Anyway, the last book I unfortunately don't have physically yet, but I've ordered it, and I'm really excited because I know there's going to be a lot of cool illustrations in it. So the last book, my favorite book of the year, which wasn't a reread, and maybe, yeah, it's definitely very high up my favorite books of all time list. It's Man-Made Monsters by Andrea L. Rogers. Such a good book. It's about, I would say a dynasty, but it's like a long line of vampires in a native family in the US. It's so good. We didn't get a lot of time with most people, but all of their stories were so interesting. Some of them very, very scary. Some of them obviously less so, but still, I adore everyone, nearly, apart from some people in the beginning. If you've read it, you know. It's a relatively new book, so I would definitely ask you to pick it up if you like short stories connected with one another through a family line, with elements of horror, family, friendship, love. There's a bit of gore in there too, just to tell you that, because I don't really like gore, and that kind of put me off because it was in the very beginning, but if you continue on, it's worth it, it's worth it. And some stories, they're not all narrated in the same way. There's differences in all of them. So yeah, it's just so interesting and so well put together. Congratulations, Andrea. I want to read all of your books now. I don't think there are any other books yet from this author, but when there are, I'm gonna be first in line. You better believe that. So yeah, those were my top and least favorite books of the year. Let's get into my stats. Okay, so I'll be looking at my phone, but I'll also be looking at the camera. So first of all, we've got my reading goal, which was, I think in the beginning it was 60, no, it was less than this. It was probably like 40 books, I think. No, sorry, my bad. It was 24 books, because I hadn't read anything in a long time. Well, I'd read like 1 or 2 books a year, or nothing at all. And then from 24 it went to 30, and then 40, and then 60. And now I've read 63, which is awesome. That I did not expect that to happen. And I'm probably gonna finish 2 more, as I said, so that's great. And my pages goal was originally, I think, 10,000, I think. But now it's 20,000, which I've also surpassed, which is awesome. Now it's 23,153. Wow. I'm hoping to get it to maybe 23,500, maybe. And next year, I'm planning on putting like a 70 book goal as my original plan, and then maybe 25,000 pages as my original plan for that. So, contents. Let's go to moods. So, most of the books I read are emotional, reflective, and dark, which, if you look at my list from the books I mentioned today, makes a lot of sense, right? Okay, so next we go on to pace. So most of the books I read were medium paced, or paced mediumly. They had a medium pace, okay? And then we've got slow, which is 30%, and fast 11%. I think the slow books are probably all the classics I read, because most of them had a slow pace. But yeah, I'm a medium gal, usually. And the page number, most of them were under 300 pages, and then some of them were 300 to 499, and then the others 500 plus, 22%. I think that's pretty good. I hope to get like a more even percentage, like 33 for all of them next year. So yeah. And fiction, non-fiction, 16% non-fiction and 84% fiction. I want to get that to 20% and 80% respectively. I do want to read more non-fiction. Specifically, I want to like dip my toe into philosophy, start with the classics and go into more contemporary stuff. That might take a bit more time, but yeah, that's something I want to do. And genres. So first, classics, which makes sense because I tried to read a classic a month, basically. How many classics? 15 classics, yeah. I read some very short ones as well, so makes sense. And then literary fiction also makes sense. That's my favorite genre. Contemporary also makes sense. LGBTQA+, also makes sense. Romance, I didn't know I read that many romance books. Fantasy, a lot of fantasy. I think it's because I read the Six of Crows duology and the King of Scars duology, and then I also read Tamsin Muir's books. So yeah, I don't know what the rest are from, which is 11 books in total. I don't know. Young adults, I also read that. The least was essays, middle grade, speculative fiction, dystopian, nature, education, psychology, poetry, play, graphic novel, essays, and biography, which I read one of, which, okay. And then my tags. Classics, International Book Club, Best Picks. These tags came from Goodreads, when I imported all my Goodreads stuff. So yeah, International Book Club is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to read a book a month from different countries of the world. So I managed to add 2 books there that I'd read. Hopefully I can finish that list next year or soon enough in any case. And then format, this is not that true, because I read a lot of books on audiobook, but I counted it as pages. But yeah, I don't mind that much about that. The digital percentage is more interesting to me. So yeah, 8% digital, mostly because of the NetGalley books I read, I'm guessing. Now that I have Scribd, I will probably have a bigger audio percentage next year. And most read authors, Rachel Joyce with 6 books, which makes sense. I read all of her books again, along with Miss Benson's Beetle, which was my first time reading through. Rachel what? Lee Bardugo with 5 books. 5 books? Oh yeah, because I read Ninth House as well. Right. Jane Austen with 4. I'm planning on finishing her books next year. Tamsin Muir with 3, yeah, obviously. Frederick Bachman with 2, yeah. Elizabeth Gaskell with 2, yes. And now I'm reading Mary Barton, so it's going to be 3. If not this year, early next year. And Sally Rooney with 2. I do want to read Beautiful World, Where Are You? Just so I can have the full picture of her books. Because everyone has very different opinions of all of them. I don't know if I've seen anyone enjoy all 3, so maybe that's the book for me, maybe. All books in this time period are in English. Yeah, I only read books in English, and even if they were in another language before, I read them translated to English. Next year, I do want to read more Greek books or Greek poetry. Let's be honest, Greek books, like novels, are not that good. Greek poetry is amazing. Specifically, I want to read more Gavafis, because I love that man, gay icon. And I don't know, I want to try some Greek novels, but I don't know if I'm going to enjoy them. Anyway, so this is like my full stats with the numbers of books and pages, and it shows how much I read from them, like every month, which was more books or pages. And as you can see, I have a lot of dips here and here and here, and here as well is a bit of a dip. So I think that this year, if there are no dips like that, I will definitely be able to get to 70 books. Yeah, easily. Because these are big dips. I read like 2 books that month, like in February and June and August. Yeah, much less than I would now. Oh, sorry. Okay, and star ratings. I am a generous rater, a lot of people would say. I think with NetGalley books I've been less generous. I don't know why, maybe because it's more of a mixed bag. You don't really know if you're gonna like it or not. But generally I try and pick books that I have a feeling, at least, that I'm going to enjoy, because what's the point in reading something you don't like, in my opinion. So yeah, I've got a lot of 4.5 stars, and that 1.75 is YN. Fuck that book. I'm sorry. Okay, I just don't like that book. Anyway, I don't mind that I skew so much towards the positive. I think that's a good thing in a way. Anyway, those were my stats. What are your stats? What were your favourite books of the year? Were any of these in your favourite books of the year? I hope so. I hope we agree on my least favourite books too. I'm guessing we won't, but it doesn't matter, really. Anyway, hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching. Bye. Oh, and for anyone that sticks around, the next videos that I want to come out with are my readathon, the December readathon vlog that I still haven't edited together, and finally come out with my Time Traveler's Wife book and adaptation comparison and thoughts, etc. about that book. It's taken a while because I don't really like what I shot, and I don't have the time and patience to do it again, so I'm trying my hardest to make it better. But yeah, And after that, I'm going to start preparing for Shadow and Bone Season 2, reading the books again as I mentioned before. And also I'm gonna start some prep for 39 Clues series. I'm really excited. I hope you are too.
Παλιά καλοριφέρ, παλιά κάγκελα, παλιά ηλιακά, παλιά θερμοσύμφωνα, παλιές μπαταρίες, καλκό, αλουμίνια, μπρούτσινα, όλα τα παλιά μαζεύω, όλα τα παλιά σηκώνω, ασιάζω, από δίπους, ταράς, αυλές, από όλα τα παλιά, από όλα τα...
Okay,